All right, here we go. Time for a live review. It is a brisk, which reminds me, because I was going to put gloves on, because yeah, it looks like it's nice and sunny out. And it is, don't get me wrong, but it's cold. So even though these aren't like winter gloves, I'm still going to put on my Cali gloves that I have because it's just going to take the chill off. So they've actually been sitting in the sun getting warm. But anyway, it's cold out. Besides the point, we're here for an e-bike review. I see we've got some comments and things here. Noah, is anyone in there? Yes, we're here, of course. Hog Dog here again. Don C here as well. Terry Nelson. So awesome. A bunch of people here. I guess I'm gonna have to pull this glove off for a moment. These do have a fingertip right here that works on like touch screens and stuff, but the laptop little mouse pad thing isn't as happy about it. It works, just not as well for me to kick or keep up, I should say. I wish I lived closer to Grass Valley. That's right, because then you could come here and see all the cool deals we have, which also reminds me, I still have a few review bikes 50% off here, and that means I'm also going to have this one that we're reviewing right now. We'll probably add it to the pile of bikes. There's one thing I may take a close look at. I may hang on to it for a little bit, but I have a few other review bikes still here. I have another review bike scheduled for next Friday, and that one we are doing a giveaway for. So don't worry, we're not just selling all the bikes locally for good deals. We are going to do a giveaway and ship that one out. So make sure to stay tuned. If you guys haven't seen, we also have a new YouTube channel of just short format videos. So go check that out if you haven't seen it already. Hopefully you have and you're subscribed over there as well. But we're here for the TESGO. It's a folding 20-inch fat tire bike. This is what it looks like. And at first glance, it might look like a bunch of other folding fat tire bikes you've seen before. But there is one thing that's completely different that I've never seen that I can think of on an e-bike before. I can't say that it's never been done, but I've never gotten a bike or reviewed a bike that has it, and that would be the brakes. So I'm actually going to jump into that first once I make sure all of your questions have been answered. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Everybody, Paul, hello, good to see you as well. Awesome. That looks like it. So let's go. That means I'm going to put my glove back on for a minute. Stay a little bit warmer if we can. The sun feels nice. Thankfully, the wind's not blowing. And see what we got here. Yes, we're in California, but we are potentially going to have snow here at Bolton e-bikes next week. So that's exciting. All right, the brakes. They are, just to give you some perspective, this bike is $16.99, and I have in the description of this video a $200 off coupon, so you can get these for $14.99, so right at $1,500. They advertise as a 750 watt motor. We'll ride it, and I'll tell you how I feel about the power. It's a 14 amp hour battery, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's a 14 amp hour. See, I have some notes written down here. Full suspension, if you guys didn't notice that is not as common on folding bikes like this. So you've got a rear shock right in the middle there, and then front suspension fork. But I really want to give you a close-up of the brakes. So I'm going to take my camera here and pull it off of our tripod and get you some close-ups, because this is pretty interesting. All right. Check it out. Here is the rear brake caliper. May not look like much at first. I'll explain, don't worry, if you don't see what I'm seeing. But the first thing I noticed was the levers up here. This is kind of funny. Everybody see the brand name? Does that remind you of anything? I thought that was pretty entertaining. The brand name on the hydraulic brakes. So, $16.99 bike, full suspension, folding with hydraulic brakes. That seems like a pretty good deal. But at first glance, I was like, huh, I've never seen these brakes before. We've got like a forged lever, but then this portion of the reservoir and everything is machined, which you normally don't see machined brakes unless they're on something really nice or expensive. Now, the quality of the machining isn't like those other brakes. For example, when I was at the Sea Otter, I showed off one of these Italian brands that had these machine brakes, and they were just amazing. They just looked awesome. And what they were doing, that company was called Fantic. They were taking, because they also make motorcycles, kind of some of their motorcycle technology, and then making their own brakes and applying some of those things. So they had like steel braided lines, things like that. This is kind of a crossover like that as well, but it's on what I would say is like a budget priced bike. I mean, you don't see hydraulic brakes on a bike usually at this price. But it was interesting to see not only are they hydraulic, but it is, like I said, a machined brake. And then if we go down to the caliper, turn that into the sun so you can see it. You can see both halves of this caliper are machined pieces. So out of like two solid blocks of aluminum, they're machining the brake housing, which is pretty interesting. And I was like, wow, I think these are kind of cool. And then as I looked at it more, I realized, wait a second, what about these rotors? Now from the side, these don't look that different. It's a 160. You can see the little 160 right there. So 160 millimeter rotor. The holes and everything don't look, different. It's kind of a standard bolt pattern. But when I looked at it from this angle, then things got really interesting. I don't know if you guys can tell on camera or not, but that rotor, it was very obvious in person that this rotor is much, much thicker than usual. And to put it into perspective, the Caliper brakes that I have just recently started selling, one of the reasons I sell those is because they are not only larger rotors, but they're thicker than normal as well. So a standard 160 millimeter rotor, like what's on this bike, a normal one would be 1.8 millimeters thick, so less than 2 millimeters. The Caliper brakes, a lot of those that we've started carrying in the 180 and 203 sizes, those are 2 millimeters. So a little bit thicker, like 10% thicker. And not only does that add some rigidity to the brake, kind of make it sturdier, but you add more mass and you can get rid of heat, which means your braking performance is improved. So I decided to measure these guys because these are even thicker than that. So again, 1.8 millimeters is normal, 2 is an upgraded brake, and these guys are a massive 2.8 millimeters thick. Way, way fatter than your standard bicycle brake. I've never seen anything like that on a bicycle. So I think, and this is just my guess, because brakes have been really hard to get lately, I think what TESGO has done is said, hey, we want hydraulic brakes on our bike. What can we get? And it looks to me like they went and found some brakes that were probably normally put on some sort of small light motorcycle or like a gas scooter maybe, or a pit bike, like a little motorcycle of some sort, because these don't look like your normal bicycle brakes. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to work. If anything, they might actually work really well because, like I said, they're thicker than normal. These rotors are not going to wear out anytime soon. You kind of have to look at the whole package with brakes. You know, are the pads good? I mean, size-wise, they look like they're probably a lot bigger than normal, and I haven't pulled these apart, which, like I said, I am tempted to do a little more digging on this. I think those brake pads look not only thicker than normal brake pads, but probably are bigger and have more surface area too. I probably should have brought out a caliper from another bike to show you the size comparison, but this looks bigger. And that is what Fantic was doing on their e-bikes, is more of a motorcycle style caliper. So normally when we talk about hydraulic brakes for bicycles, usually an upgrade, for example, like the Blackbird bikes right now, the Warthog bikes, some of those have big 203 millimeter rotors, and then we're using 4 piston brake calipers. So that means you've got a piston on each side of the rotor that's sandwiching together. That's what's braking on the rotor with your pads. So instead of 2 pistons, you've got 4. You've got 2 on each side, and you have a slightly bigger brake pad. Now, Fantic, with their Italian-made bikes, instead of going with 4 pistons, they're going back to 2, but increasing the size, making a much bigger volume, so that way you can have a lot more pressure. So they were just going with one big, basically, piston on their caliper, if that makes sense. So these kind of look like they're doing the same thing. But the big difference, like I said, is this bike is $1,600, whereas, you know, the Fantic bikes, you know, they were over, I don't know, I think the average price might have been like around $7-8 grand. Some of their bikes went up over $10,000. Now, I'm not saying that these bikes that have a name that looks suspiciously similar to a theme park are as good as the Italian brakes, but they don't look bad. So that's definitely one of the things I'm going to be paying close attention to as I ride this bike. How do the brakes perform? May have to give it some time to break these in, which we haven't broken them in yet, but really interesting. So, and I don't actually know what's going on over here. I'm sure you guys have seen on our short videos, if you've been watching them, the Grinch making quite a few appearances, and apparently he has decided to mow the gravel. I don't know why. I don't know what he's doing. So more Grinch videos on our YouTube short channel if you're interested. All right, let's put this camera back on the tripod. Let's take the bike for a spin. Definitely, like I said, want to test out these brakes, see how they perform, and then also the motor, you know, see how it does being a quote-unquote 750 watt bike. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask those in the chat. At least he's cleaning up, right? I mean, all right, let's turn this camera around into the yard. Let's grab the bike and see how it performs. Oh, and of course the suspension too. We'll see how that goes. All right, I'm unplugging the bike from the charger. It's been on the charger for the last couple of hours or so. So I bet it's decently charged. It wasn't dead when we unboxed it, but it wasn't totally full either. The bike has a thumb throttle on the left-hand side. The display is LCD. It's not black, or it's not in color, I should say. It's got 5 pedal assist settings, pretty normal stuff. It's got a bell, and then an 8-speed Shimano derailleur, which is interesting. I didn't notice that at first. I was thinking it was a 7. So 8 speeds instead of 7. That's good. Again, this is a folding bike with full suspension. So you got some shock absorbing there and a little bit more right there. So first steps first, let's feel what the power is like. I'm going to get a feel for the pedal assist. All right, this is no assist on at all. All right, this is level 2. which that takes off pretty quick. So if the other assist levels keep going up like that, then I'm going to say, yeah, it probably is a good 750 watt bike. All right, this pedal assist's 5. What are you doing? So far, so good. Let's do a stop with full throttle. All right, I'm going to give it full throttle in 3, 2, 1. Not bad. Realistically, even if you got the biggest 750 watt motor and a 20-inch fat tire, you got to give it kind of a soft start. So just launch off and do a wheelie on you. I did review a bike recently that behaved that way, and it was kind of sketchy at times. So I think I should probably take it up the hill a little bit, but we'll see how it performs uphill. All right, right outside the gate here, throttle up the hill. Yeah, not bad. Well, that feels pretty good. The power, yeah, I mean, nothing just super crazy. There's no wattage or anything on the display, so I don't know how much power it's actually drawing. But I guess I could say I believe 750 watts. It seems pretty peppy, takes off just fine. You know, it's probably not going to be 1200 watt peak or anything crazy like that, but it probably does 750 watts. It might be pushing a little bit more. Now I need to focus a little bit more on the braking aspect, because, yeah, I mean, it locks the brakes up just fine. I do have to pull the lever. Like, there's a fair amount of force required, but it'll lock up the brakes, front or rear. Let's do that a little bit faster. Front and rear, same time. Yeah, it stops quick. I feel like the difference is with these, and this is a real quick test. Bear in mind, I think, you know, pads should be broken in, but they actually are grabbing pretty good right now. It feels like the brakes can grab with more force, which makes me believe that the piston inside probably is, in fact, bigger than a standard e-bike hydraulic brake. The only thing I am noticing compared to, you know, if you were to ask me how do these compare to a really high-end hydraulic brake, even though the pressure feels like it's there and it stops really good, I do feel like you have to put in more effort with your fingers. So you actually have to squeeze harder, but the braking power is there. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm guessing part of that reason is because these have a lot of grab this way, but they are sitting on 160 millimeter rotors, whereas some of the other brakes I'm referring to on our other bikes are 203 millimeters. So the diameter is much bigger. So you've got more leverage to grab onto. And so it doesn't feel like you have to pull the lever as hard to stop the bike. So this feels like you have to give it a good squeeze, but when you do, it stops. So unless the pads, you know, wear out fast or anything, which they look super thick, I think these will probably actually work really good. There is an adjustment lever right here, which I didn't point out earlier. So that's kind of nice to have, just instead of a manual adjustment, to actually have a knurled knob that doesn't require a tool. You can just grab this and turn it in or out to adjust your brake lever. So I think this is directly turning in the plunger, probably, that's inside the brake here. So it's just physically putting it in closer or further away. So in theory, if you lost a little bit of fluid, you could turn this in for a small adjustment. Ideally, you're going to want to bleed these things. That's another thing that's kind of unique. I have no idea how this reservoir portion works right here, but it looks like the reservoir for the fluid is right here. That's got to be the screw you pull out to add fluid in. Totally different. What I don't know about this, and I could probably reach out to TESGO and ask them about this, and I actually already emailed them about what did they pull the brakes from, were they used on something else. But there's two different kinds of hydraulic brakes. You have closed and open systems. Most bicycle brakes these days are an open system, meaning that there's somewhere that the fluid can kind of overflow or squeeze into. There's usually some sort of like bladder in the reservoir. So there's, this is not me explaining it very well, but basically there's a spot where there's some air at the top of it, essentially. A closed system, there is none of that. So I don't know which type this brake is, and because it's not a standard bicycle brake, it could be anything. I have no idea, and that's why I said I may not sell this one or give it away or do anything immediately. I may want to investigate a little further on these brakes and see what they look like on the inside. If you want to see that, if you're interested to see me take these things apart, let me know in the comments if you're watching this after the live, or let me know right now in the live, because I'm curious what you guys think. I know I want to see what's inside, but I don't know if you guys want to see what's inside these brakes. But let's see, what do we got to verify the specs on this thing. Make sure I didn't miss anything. 14.5 amp hour battery, average for the price. I think, we're good there. Motor feels good. Feels pretty peppy off the line. Climbs up hills just fine. No complaints there. Hydraulic brakes, I've talked a lot about. These are definitely unique. I guess time will tell how well they last, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do pretty well over time. Don asked if I could fold it. So yeah, we can fold this thing on camera and see how that goes. It is full suspension. The suspension itself, it's not an off-road bike. You're not going to go mountain biking with this, but it is nice. Just bumps in the gravel here, potholes, things like that, to have some cushion there. But the suspension itself isn't anything super fancy. It looks like a pretty standard mount for the rear shock down there. So you could probably upgrade it pretty easily if you wanted to. One thing I didn't check on their website and I didn't write down is how much this bike weighs. Normally, if you got folding, that adds some weight. If you got full suspension, that adds some weight. And then they also used these cast wheels, which I normally don't like because they can be so stinking heavy. But I haven't really noticed the bike being all that heavy, riding it and moving it around. Yeah, it doesn't feel as heavy as I would have thought. And I say that because other bikes that use these cast wheels sometimes are well into like the 80-some pound range. And I would have to weigh this, but it does not feel like that. So I don't know what they did weight-wise. If anybody has their website open, or I guess I can get back to my computer and check that while we're live, it doesn't feel as heavy as I would have expected. So that's a plus. And Michael says it'd be nice inside. Dennis Maddox says yes. Yeah. Okay, so far the consensus is, yeah, we should do that. Let's tilt the camera down a little, and let's try and fold this thing up now. Okay, there we go. Oh, that was centered pretty well. All right, so kickstand up. Put the seat down just for maximum compactness. The Welgo pedals they're using are the metal folding pedals. There's plastic ones you see a lot on folding bikes. They actually use the metal ones, which I prefer. Most of the folding mechanisms on this bike are pretty standard things. I don't see any surprises. So handlebars off to the side. Let's undo the safety here. Oh, that's interesting. So you guys probably didn't catch this because I just caught it. The lever says Yami on it. I've reviewed the Yami bikes before, and they were pretty good. So they have a very similar frame to this. So probably the same one, or came from the same place. That's my guess. All right, let's do this all the way to there. So we're gonna fold in half, and that's it. It is folded down. For this particular frame design, that's also how you pull the battery out. So the battery is tucked in this portion of the frame. You can unlock the key, slide it all the way out. The only thing, it's a small nitpicky thing. The only thing I don't like about these particular frames is that the key to lock and unlock it goes in the bottom of the frame from underneath. It's just really hard to see the keyhole. So kind of a weird spot to put it, you know. So small complaint, not a huge deal, but something to consider. So that's how it folds up. And to fold it back up, which I'm just noticing now too, this rack is super sturdy. Some racks look big and beefy. This one, bigger and beefier than average. So really interesting bike. I never know what to expect with things like this because I've had some that are kind of disappointing, if you will. I've had some that surprise me with their specifications. And so far, this one is actually kind of surprising on some of the little things. Probably where they save some money, cost, they went a little cheaper, would be the display, which is just black and white. Doesn't have a whole lot of function to it. It does the basics, though. And then the other thing I noticed right here is and I apologize if you guys hear all of that background noise. There's a helicopter and all sorts of stuff going on. If you look at the seat post, they have a shim right here. So they didn't have the right size. They used a plastic shim. I don't like to see that. It's like an afterthought. But I mean, the seats wasn't wobbly or anything. So functionally, it's fine. That's just me being picky. Fenders look good. They're plastic fenders, which personally I don't mind. If they're plastic, they're never going to rust or anything. Some people prefer metal. You know, I think it go either way. Oh, and I should mention too, they do call this bike the Hummer on some of their communications. Right here on the frame, you'll see it just says Hum, H-U-M. But further down, it does say Hummer 750. I don't know if they don't always say that on their website for marketing reasons because of the Hummer name, if that's an issue, or what the deal is there. But this is the TESGO. That's the brand of the bike. That's where it came from. They did send it to me for the review. So thank you guys at TESGO. I'm happy with the bike. I don't think you would go wrong owning one of these. I can't speak to their service, warranty, anything like that, because I haven't done any business with them other than for this review. So unfortunately, you're on your own to do that research and figure out the answers to those questions. But the bike looks pretty decent. It's lighter than I would have expected. Very interested to get more information on the brakes that they have on here. I wouldn't be surprised as more and more e-bikes sell. There's more and more demand. It's harder and harder to get components. I wouldn't be surprised that we see more people do things like this. So that's pretty interesting. Like I said, tempted to pull those apart. I will definitely update if that's something we do. So thanks again for TESGO for sending the bike, and we're gonna have a little fun with it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I've got another review again planned for next week on Friday, and that is a bike we are going to guaranteed do a giveaway for. So that's going to be our next giveaway bike, confirmed. Stay tuned for that. That bike I have already ridden, and I'm going to say any one of you watching would be happy to win it. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And I'm going to double check and see if you guys have any other questions before we take off here. And looks like we are all set. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And don't forget, go subscribe to our new short. It's Bolton E-Bikes Shorts. That's the new channel where we post videos that are only short videos, meaning less than 60 seconds in length. And so far, we have been posting videos every single day, sometimes more than once per day. So if you haven't seen those, go check them out. They're a little bit sillier than the usual content, but they're a lot of fun. We'll see you again